Robert Costa joins me now from Washington for more. Robert, I mean, when I read your reporting, my jaw dropped. I understand that Justice Clarence Thomas and Ginni Thomas have in the past said, we don't talk shop at home. But first of all, has either of them responded in any way to the existence of these text messages or even her attendance at the Trump rally that preceded the January 6th riot?
Good questions. Justice Thomas has not responded to a request for comment CBS News and the Washington Post issued to the Supreme Court today. It's worth noting that Justice Thomas has been hospitalized in recent days with an infection. Right. In terms of Ginni Thomas, his spouse, she did not respond Thursday to repeated email requests to comment, phone calls, text messages to comment. If she does reach out to CBS News or our partner on this story, the Washington Post, we will be sure to update that. But at this moment, no comment from her. But Mark Meadows' lawyer, George Terwilliger, he did comment, confirmed the existence of these text messages, would not comment on individual text messages. But he did say in an on-the-record comment that in his view, there is nothing illegal here, and nothing that creates any legal issue for Mark Meadows.
That's right. I mean, I read that from Meadows' attorney. He's obviously going to play down any legal implication. But in your opinion, what implication could this information have either on the January 6th investigation or even on Justice Thomas's position in the Supreme Court?
It raises questions about what is appropriate in terms of a relationship of correspondence, of political strategy, sometimes promotions of a conspiracy theory here or there, between a spouse of a justice of the Supreme Court and a sitting official in the executive branch, the White House chief of staff at the time, Mark Meadows. The context and timing of this is also intriguing, to say the least. You might recall that former President Trump, then President Trump, just hours after the polls closed on Election Day 2020, around 2:30 a.m. on November 4th, 2020, took the stage at the White House and said he wants to take his fight against the result all the way to the Supreme Court. And right. So the Supreme Court was on Trump's radar as his chief of staff is texting with the spouse of a justice.
I mean, is this something that, had it ended in the Supreme Court, perhaps Justice Clarence Thomas could have removed himself from? We heard during the Judge Jackson hearings that there's some investigation on Harvard University that she would remove herself from. Is this something that justices do? Could he have done that? Or is this, something that he would have had to weigh on?
It's a complicated question with a complicated answer. You have the First Amendment often cited by Justice Thomas and his wife, Ginni Thomas, whenever asked about her political activity. It's no secret that Ginni Thomas is a longtime conservative activist. Clarence Thomas is the longest-serving member on the Supreme Court, and they've had this coexistence in terms of their professional activities for many years, with her being active in right-wing circles while he is ruling on many different cases. They have always said that they do not communicate about cases before the court. The question that is in front of us, though, as reporters and perhaps before the January 6th Select Committee, is what does this all mean, and what do we really know about the extent of what Ginni Thomas was saying to her husband during a time cases were potentially going to come before the Supreme Court on the election. At one point in the text messages that Bob Woodward and I reviewed and obtained, you see Ginni Thomas refer to Clarence Thomas as, you see her refer to Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings in 1991 as a contentious time. She also makes a reference to a, quote, best friend. We do not know who she is referencing in that, but it's worth a follow-up question.
That is certainly, I mean, my first thinking is, yeah, my husband often refers to me as his best friend. We wonder who she was talking about. Hopefully it was not her husband as her best friend. Robert Costa, incredible reporting. Thank you so much. We'll continue to follow closely what you keep revealing about these Meadows texts. Thank you.
Thank you.